Hello, everybody. I'm going to present you the Twitter streaming plugin for Gephi. Talk louder. Is it okay now, like that? Zozolala, like that is better now, okay? Perfect. So it will be a very simple presentation. Please tweet, because I'm recording. You might have seen before the tweets, so maybe we can refine your tweets and etc. afterward. So don't be scared, it will be easy, and please tweet on the stuff. So who am I? So I'm Mathieu. I'm a simple software developer in a company that doesn't do anything with graph, but on side parts, I'm like a graph enthusiast. So I have several famous work that I've done, like visualization of graph, mainly some application that I've done on the web for graph and extra. Look at my name, type my name on Google, you will see that on Twitter. But today I'm talking to you for another project that I'm working on since a long time now, which is the graph streaming and the Twitter part with Gephi. So just to know, who knows Gephi here? Oh, not that much, okay. And who use it somehow, like intensively, or? Okay, and who knows Twitter? Okay, that's okay. So actually, so these ideas of graph and Twitter came when I was at university in 2011. So at that time, I took some classes and we learned like graph was new stuff, but not very famous as today. But that was new, that was very fun to use. There was Gephi in version 07, I think. And also we have also this class of exploratory data analysis where you say, okay, I will analyze my data with some visualization first, and then I will do my hypothesis from what I'm seeing, what I can somehow deep dive, what I can filter from visualization perspective. And on the same time, I was on Twitter, and I noticed some change on the Twitter usage. First, there was a burst of usage. More people use Twitter for more professional stuff. And that was like a big change on that. And more of that, they were using it real time. 2011, I think it's around that where Twitter released their streaming API, which is different to the traditional API. So the traditional API, you just do a query and it returns you somehow a database return. Whereas the streaming API, you just like consuming a topic that you create. And that's slightly different because you have somehow the real-time part there. And there was more and more stuff upon that. And the stuff is, you kind of notice, and I noticed that with unfortunately the Japan Great Earthquake in 2011, that you have a lot of people that were tweeting like mass. You can't understand what they were talking about because it was too fast. There was too many streams oncoming. But if you do some stuff, and I spend somehow the day looking at the TV, for example, and Twitter with some manual scripts, and the people on Twitter were much more accurate in terms of data and in terms of news than the TV that were just looping the news or having some false news or etc. So I was like, okay, there is somehow two different things. I'm learning this kind of new stuff. Let's merge everything. So my first question was like, okay, could graph actually help us to visualize the media stream during an event? So social media stream, I use Twitter because it's it's the easiest way to have a stream of data. Facebook doesn't allow it, and there was none of other that I know. And an event, I base my research and my work on a catastrophe event, but then I move more and more to more global event, like let's say FOSDEM today, or let's say the Trump election, or anything else like a TV show, and etc. So the original application, so as I explained, it was looking like that. You take some Twitter stream event, you receive some message, you process it, and then you send it to Gephi. At the beginning, it was an external application, but then what happened, it's like I was using the graph streaming plugin, but it was quite slow because you start to see that when you have more and more users, or the stream are very fast or very massive, it starts to begin slow. So the Twitter plugin is just integrated into Gephi so that you don't have any problem in terms of HTTP transaction and etc. But basically it's the same, and the core of that is basically what you have done here is the network logic. So the network logic is the algorithm that transforms the tweets to a graph. So for example, what I decide to do is to take very natural language as my modeling system. So you take all the entities like the user, the hashtag, the message, and you define that as a node. And then you say the link, you just transform the link as you were speaking. So for example, you have a user that do a tweet that makes two nodes, one relation, a user tweets a message. And then you can say also, okay, a message has a hashtag. So you have a link here. And then you compile like that, you compile like that. And also you find a trick like when you have some retweets or some quotes or etc. You try to emphasize on the target of the tweet so that it gets more importance on the network. So here, for example, you can see that Gagarin tweets something, and you have a lot of retweet around that from Baikonur, from anybody. Nice example, by the way. And so it should show something when you are somehow active on the network. It should show you more importance on the stuff. So that's why I explain here, and the way of the network logic works within that allow me two things. First, the auto sizing within Gephi. So in Gephi you have an automatic degree computation and you have automatic sizing that you can put in place. So what is very convenient is that you have your graph ongoing, and if something is getting more important, it's growing up and you can see it growing up live without re-clicking each time to have the refresh of your visualization. The second part is Force Atlas and Force Atlas 2 that do two things. First, it contextualizes your topic. You will see that later, so you can see that if more people are pro and cons a certain topic, you will see them in different communities. And also it removes the noise. We will see that later on. And actually we can see that now. Just that after there is other network logics that exist. So for example, user to user, hashtags to hashtags. But at the end, they are just derived from this original thoughts. And from that part, you can generate the other one. Just that in live, it's quite complex to do it in parallel for the moment. So let's have a demo, real-time demo. It's completely from today's FOSDEM network that I'm streaming since 10 a.m. somehow. I don't know what it will give us, so it's purely a test here. So as you can see, somehow, right? At the end, it's okay. At the end of this, no. That's sad. I will do a meteo like in the TV. So what we have, each color represents an entity. Green is hashtags, red is user, and yellow is the message somehow. So for the moment, as a macro vision, what we have in the center, we have the hashtag FOSDEM 2017. That is somehow the central place over there because people are tweeting around that and they're tweeting with these hashtags. And then, so what we can see is like you have this whole bubble of discussions here. And okay, that won't be very, I need to zoom a little bit, but you see that there is a little community that exists now. So you have this one, basically, which is the FOSDEM. So I think it's Mozilla. And there is a lot of people tweeting around that, and they are somehow, let's call the Mozilla community over there. Then I think we have the big data somewhere. Let me see. No, here is FOSDEM. IoT, so the IoT community here, so a lot of people talking about IoT and etc. And what's interesting here, it's like, they are not somehow spread all across the central network. You can see that there is some link that's going directly from this one to this one. So we can imagine that actually there are some people that are interested by both and that are tweeting by both. And you can see that somehow within the Twitter. What could be interesting to see other part? Yeah, so yeah, here for example you have another which is DPK. What is it? Well, you got the concept. So there will be an engine. Sorry.
What's to the right-hand side in the bottom?
Over there. Let's go. Woo. It's MySQL Dev Room. I let you judge what it means. Yeah. So basically, in most of our use case. Okay. In most of our use case, in most of the topic you will have a look, there will be a convergence within a big giant component. Not all the components will be connected. For example, you can see there that some people tweet, but they are not really connected to the global conversation, let's say. Sometimes they are pretty big, but pretty small. But usually what happens inside your search that you will do, you will have a big component that will exist. That is the core of your topic. Everybody will be, that are linked over there, make somehow sense to the global topic you are looking for. It will be very rare to find two big giant components within the same topic. Or if you have two, it means that they are completely unrelated somehow. A second thing also, and we will do a live demo then again, is okay, for when I see some people do that on the internet when they're providing their research and etc., that they are keeping their search within their visualization. And the problem is you have this kind of, let's say, star here that monopolize everything because everybody is tweeting that. So, I mean, it's like looking something on something that exists already. I mean, the graph exists because you're looking at that. So why looking at that? And second, it somehow mismatch the size of the nodes because everybody is tweeting that, but somehow it will hide the other size of the nodes for other topics. So usually what you do, you try to avoid that, and the plugin is avoiding that. So for example, if here I configure it to have it somehow up and displayed, but the plugin, when you look at FOSDEM 2017, will remove that completely without putting it so that you have a better visualization. So if you remove actually the node, you see that more nodes now are bigger because they are somehow equal, and we are really looking at all the conversation within the topic of the FOSDEM here. Yeah, so what happened, it's like, see, all these nodes basically will go off. The Force Atlas will get them off, but that's okay because they are not integrated into another conversation here. And what we can reveal here, it's like, okay, you have some guys that are talking to open source. The FOSDEM, so the FOSDEM are the guys that are more active from what I see here. And yeah, so that's it. I will tell you that after, but basically I'm not an expert. I'm not guys that have some social class or whatever. So everything that I explained to you is just purely visualization part. I will talk to that later. So learning from experience, yeah, so that's basically what I tell you. So you have one giant component that describes the core of your topic. The liveness of the graph makes the hot trend very easy to spot, because you will see, we didn't see here because there is not something that is mainly retweet. You will see that a node will appear and will create a lot of nodes, a lot of edge with other nodes that exist, for example, and it will somehow make the graph very panic because he will have to reshuffle everything and etc. and it will grow. And then you see, oh, actually this guy is getting a lot of retweets, and it's very important to know what are the hot trends when you're looking at an important event, for example. And also, like we saw before, there is some context because the giant component is organized in multiple, let's say, community inside this component. And thanks to Force Atlas, basically, you will have the nodes, the entity will be contextualized because everybody talks to everybody that looks the same somehow. So if you have a case where you have people that are pro and cons a certain topic, you will have any message that will be merged either to the pro part or the cons part, but you will see that you will know that, oh, this message actually, I saw that it's going to these people, so maybe I need to take care because that might be, for example, some fake news, for example, or anything like that. Yeah, so, okay, that was, for example, the example I show you. So to avoid to have your search within your visualization. So here, like you see, oh, there is a lot of graph over there, but that's just a star. But if you remove it, you have the component that's going out. So you can have much more insight about that. Detecting anomalies, we didn't see it yet, but it's very easy to detect bots, actually. Here you can see that, for example, there is one user on the top that do a lot of tweets with hashtags that have nothing to do with my search. And basically, most of these cases, the graph will be very big, but will be outside the main, the giant component. So you will see you will see a lot of that, and you see that, okay, actually it doesn't mean anything for my search because they are out of any conversation. So you can just ignore them. Another interesting bot-like stuff was during the Le Web Paris event, where a guy, completely legit, tweets something, and then you have this huge amount of retweets. So here is the original tweet, and here is all the Twitter that retweet his message, and the retweets are visualized here. And what can we say with that? Well, I mean, I looked briefly on all the accounts that were retweeting the message. They sound sometimes legit, sometimes not legit, and etc. But what we can say is like, in terms of metrics, if you take, for example, the number of retweets, this guy will be on your top rank. But in terms of really contextualization of his tweet within the conversation, I will say is priceless, is valueless, because basically it's not contextualized. None of these users here were talking before, or none of these users will talk after. I mean, I keep this data running for hours, and it stays like that. So here, what we can detect is basically, yeah, the guy tweets something, he used somebody to retweet it to get famous on the metrics part, but in terms of conversation, no value. So that's very interesting. Yeah, so as I say, you will see a lot of different similar structures. So here it was, I think it was another web or another convention that I see. So here I use the user to user. Same issue, you have a big component and you see communities that emerge from that. So here you have a community of Nito and other from SEO and a little bit of Mayor over there. So you can, but you see that in real time. When you have the Gephi, I mean, I can put that back Gephi, you see it in real time and you can see the evolution in real time, which is pretty cool to know. Then it starts to be a little bit tricky sometimes. So it's another convention here. So same issue, but you know, like it starts to be a little bit difficult to read because it's more sparse. The tweets are more sparse, and it appears that sometimes it's really like a cloud of users that are tweeting. So you can't really, you still have the community that exists over there around user or around topic, but that starts to be a little bit tricky to read. A good example, recent example, the French guys will know, was the Chat Salon. So it was about Fillon that was using bots basically, and that was the nice stuff to use. So same here again, you see the giant component, you see the two community, the Countersphere and the Fillon sphere over there. And what you can notice is like first it's the Countersphere that making making the tweet, so they're tweeting a lot much more. And around themselves, you have some people that are doing the connection between the two spheres, but that's very low compared to the link between the people here. And then, so it was about bots. So I was like, yeah, let's go, let's see the bots. And you have two kinds of bots here. So you have the Fillon's bot that were completely unrelated to the conversation, of course. And this was so this was somehow the hashtag that was created by the bot, but they are not linked to any conversation here. Most of them. There is in this mod, there is some that are retweeting, but most of them, they don't do anything. They just tweet that and they die, basically. They don't do anything else. And and here in Gephi, it's very interesting because then it will focus you. When you will run it live, this one will just get away from the main one. So you can really focus on what's happened here and say, oh, actually, yeah, that was some bots. And most of the talk now is about the Countersphere part. And then there was these guys that decided to do a counter bot on this conversation. So basically using a tweet to say, hey, look, I have also bot that I can create some message on Twitter like you. And here, because this guy was also having some friends that were helping him, you can see that he was linked to the Countersphere. But same problem here. None of these message or tweets were linked to the guys inside the Countersphere. So here you can say, okay, he just created some funny stuff, he got a lot of advertisement, but in terms of generating value into the conversation, zero. So that was, yeah. And then, so you have this kind of stuff that can appear. So here it was during a TV show, and you can see that, okay, you have some hashtags that getting highlighted, but okay, the user, the tweet, how we analyze that, I don't know. And then you got Women's March. It's only 15 minutes here, and you got trillion amount of nodes of edges. Your computer started to take fire, and I mean that's somehow the limit there. I will explain you later what's the limit, but I developed the plugin for small event at that time in 2011. Small event was like what today they are doing in 1 hour in Twitter. And here it's really the case. It's like, okay, then after if you somehow stop the stream, you can somehow analyze it, but it takes really long time and you need to stop the stream. So you can't really get focused on that. So here it's cool, but we are reaching the limit. The limit is a little bit Gephi part, not because it's a bad tool, it's a very amazing tool, but it was not focused on this kind of use case. So the problem is, for example, the metrics and the filters. It could be nice actually to have some filters to say, hey, remove me this part, or get focused on this user, or get focused on that. The problem is the metrics and the filter, particularly in live, doesn't work. If you try that, you will have some exception and Gephi will go banana. The other problem is the UI is not complete, on the sense that could be nice that when you have, for example, here the status or the nodes, if I'm clicking that, okay, for hashtags doesn't make sense, but if I'm clicking to this user, I can see somehow his profile. There is also the link here, a link to a media. Could be nice that if I'm clicking there, I can see the image, for example. In Gephi, it doesn't exist yet. I can create some plugin and etc. to have that, but is it really the good way to go? I don't know exactly, but it means that there is somehow a limit here that we are reaching. And the last limit is, I think, the need of science. As I told you, all that I show you and explain you was purely visual. I just used that because I know some visualization stuff, I read, and I spent 6 years basically looking at any topic that was interesting me. But in terms of science, I can't tell you why there is one giant component. I can't tell you why people are going somehow to a community. So here, I think it's something that now I need to focus on, is to find some people that are doing classes and etc., science classes, to find why not, to put some science upon this tool, so that then we can really know exactly what's happened and we can detect maybe more stuff and we can grow a little bit to that. And all this free stuff for me, it's needed now for the heavy graph stream, so what we saw with Women's March, because if you don't have this kind of stuff now that are somehow focused really on streaming, you can't do that. Yeah, so somehow some demo of enhanced UI that I've done, so you can just do that, and then you can see, okay, you have activities of Twitter and etc. With hashtags, so it gives you another value. I mean, it's not incompatible with the stream visualization of a graph, but it gives you much more visualization and much more insight with other data. And then, yeah, you can create your own social mailroom. So that's what I've done. When you have the live image and you have the graph, and you can see here it was during the Euro World Cup. You can see the people fighting each other because they like France or they like Portugal. So in conclusion, interesting added value here, I think. You can see a lot of stuff from the plugin and etc. That's very interesting use case. The problem is like the requirement and the context change from 2011. It changed a lot, and now, for example, I was talking about TV that were outdated, but now TV use a lot Twitter. So how to react with that? Actually, what's now really the value of that? Some technical evolution are needed, and science, of course. And science, actually, is why I put this project in open source, and I will, as we are in an open source demonstration, I will talk a little bit about that. It was, for me, a very nice open source experiences to contribute to Gephi, to look at what people are doing outside and to get some discussion. So thanks, Andre and Eduardo from the Gephi community, somehow that helps me a lot on creating that and having an insight about the graph streaming stuff. I discovered recently that some universities use this plugin. So in all parts of the world, so in Paris, in California, in Mexico, in Brazil. Actually, if you have if you know why people from South America heavily are interested about social studies, let me know, because I don't know why. Huh? Yeah, but yeah, I mean that's why. Also, it could be nice to know exactly. And also thanks to the user community, so some people use that. For example, Observa Trump used that to have a look on what Trump was saying, very smart stuff. Some Forsonic studies. With Clément Levala, we start to have Gephi tutorials dedicated for this plugin also. And other people that are sometimes translating to have a tutorial that makes sense or to explain what they've done. And many more. And it's the last talk somehow. It's please, if you're using it and you publish something or you're doing something, tweet me, send me a message. I'm very happy that people use the plugin, and like that I can keep track of what's the usage and what's the need, and maybe we can grow something together somehow. So merci beaucoup. I think we have
5 minutes for questions. Any questions from you? Otherwise, I have one which is related to things like hashtags, because hashtags tend to accumulate, especially ones that you're searching for, accumulate a lot of additional relationships. Did you try to kind of reduce that noise by saying, okay, I don't or I will not kind of track hashtags beyond a certain size. I just kind of notice that they are there, but I will not put them in. And did that make any difference?
Well, somehow it exists because when you're looking at a certain hashtag and it appears into the stream, the algorithm will avoid it. So there is a first bridge to say, because this one will somehow aggregate the stuff, that was I was explaining. You won't have it on the stuff. Then it comes with the filter. You can still filter, but within Twitter it's very hard, and on Gephi also you need to code something. But Gephi have these filters that exist, and that could be nice to have that. Unfortunately, I've tried that several times on the live stuff, and that doesn't work. That's the problem.
Okay. Thanks so much. We will